What's up, guys? Spiritual Lemonade back with another video. We got everything that I listened to from what dropped on June 13th through this week. And we're going to start off with a few albums that I've revisited. These are not albums that dropped this week. And then I think I'll have at least one or two at the end of this video that are also not from this week, but I've gone back and revisited. It's easier to go from right here through this week. We're starting with Camp Lukewarm by Lord's Child, which is a side project, one of many side projects by Montell Fish, I believe. I don't know if there's another person involved with this as well, but this was a really solid listen. It kind of solidifies, just like even going back this far into Montell Fish's catalog, and this isn't on his profile, but it's definitely his project, and it's just very obvious that he's just like a super solid concept album artist. Like, he's not gonna just put any random song out. It like all has meaning. It's very, very deep, very thought-provoking. The lyrics are refreshing. The production on this is super high quality. It's something so high quality that it doesn't even sound like it could be. Like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like, it obviously sounds very Christian and very Christ-centered, but the production is so like secular indie pop sounding that it's like kind of makes you wonder, like, this is really good. Like, it sounds like it could just compete, not saying that it has to compete with mainstream or secular music, but it's just that good. So I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I know I just talked kind of a lot about that. This next album is another one I revisited. It's called Sight by the Eagle and Child. They're also kind of in that same realm of indie, Christian indie pop, but also kind of more of a worship, lyrical content throughout this. I really only knew the song Nothing Like Your Love. That's the one that I knew. I've played it. I've had it in my summer playlist for like the last 3 years, and that's the only song I knew, but I liked the cover art, so I was like, I'm just gonna eventually listen to the whole thing. I finally did, and there were a few misses in my opinion on this album. There's a few songs that I just wouldn't go back and listen to, but for the most part I would. A lot of really solid writing and production on this as well. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 on that one. The next album is also a re-listen. This is called Hide and Seek by the artist Beloved. It's a band, and it's also in that indie pop Christian CCM kind of realm as well. Pretty similar to the Eagle and Child, like lyrical content wise. It does have more of a worship center, more focused on like worship sounding lyrics, with an indie pop kind of production behind it. Super solid listen as well. I think I liked this even more. Like, I would listen to this entire album all the way through again. So I gave it a 4 out of 5 on that one. The first of the new music for this week is King of Hearts by Brandon Lake. I was excited for this. I haven't bought the vinyl yet. I'm debating. It's a really good album, but $40, I can't spend $40 every time someone drops an album. But I really do eventually want to get this on wax because it is just really good. There's only one kind of like criticism I would give this album, which is you can just tell from the cover art he's wearing a cowboy hat. Throughout the beginning, like few songs in the beginning, it definitely has a country vibe to it, and then I want to say around halfway through it starts to just completely shift the production style, not country at all anymore, and then at the end of the album it gets into the country sounding stuff again. A good example actually would be Right in the Middle featuring Hulvey. That is a song that does not sound country at all. Like, it does not have a country aesthetic. It's a banger still. It's one of my favorites off this project, but it just doesn't fit the soundscape of this entire album because it seemed like he was trying to go for a complete country sounding album, but there's just songs on here that are not at all country. So that's the only like criticism I would get, is just a little bit of an inconsistency in the production. But overall, I still gave it a 4 out of 5 because it is a super solid album. I loved Again, the one with Holvey. I loved some of the singles that didn't have any features, But God, Spare Change, Ghost Stories. I really loved Ghost Stories. That was a good one. And there was one song in particular, I don't know if it was Ghost Stories or not, but it got almost into like it almost sounded like a play in the fact that he was like getting a little dramatic with it, not in a bad way. Like usually when artists do that, it's a little off-putting to me, but he really came through on that, and I liked it a lot. It had a nice vibe to it. So shout out to Brandon Lake on this new project. Next one is An Honest Prayer by Jet Trouble. I've known of Jet Trouble for a while. I know he's done a song with No Big Deal, I think, and that is what got me into his music. He's also kind of in that indie kind of vibe, but also more of a singer-songwriter as well. The best way I can describe this is like a mix of Imagine Dragons, One Republic, and John Bellion. Those are the three artists when I was listening to this. It's like I could tell he's inspired by at least one of those three, but then it just sounds like those three artists combined. Super catchy songs, and there's a lot of like testimony in this as well, like his personal experiences throughout this entire project. Sometimes it can get a little repetitive with what he's saying. Like in the first two songs, An Honest Prayer and Good, he talks about almost the same exact thing or maybe it's Good and I Need You, because An Honest Prayer was just the introduction. The first two real full songs on this had very similar lyric content. So at first I was like, I don't know, is this entire album just going to be about the same thing the whole time? But he did switch it up, and it was a really good, solid listen. So I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 on that one. Next up, we have Death to Your Ego by Kokwi, I think is how you pronounce it. I'm not sure. I think I reviewed the whole EP. It was like 4 songs or something. I must have just reviewed the one song, but it was like 3 or 4 songs, I think. It was pretty short. I gave it a 3 out of 5. It wasn't anything too crazy. It sounds like what you would typically hear kind of on Christian radio, with a couple other songs with more of a chill vibe as well, not super pop focused. But some really good summer songs if you wanted to add them to a playlist. Much More was featured on one of those songs, and he's dropping an album as well this year that I'm super excited for. Dying to Be Different Live by Vu Worship. This was a pretty solid worship album, one of the albums that I did like so far this year. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. You guys know I'm probably not going to go into my whole thing on worship music every time at this point, because I feel like I've said it so many times. But this, even though it did have a pretty long runtime, it was over an hour long, which usually anything over an hour for worship albums for me, it's like you're doing too much. But it really wasn't anything terrible, actually. Like the longest song on here was 8 minutes long. And I think all these songs really did justice, really conveyed what it was trying to say without being like excessively repetitive, which is what a lot of worship music is. It's just the same hook for 12 minutes. So I really did enjoy this album. I would definitely recommend anyone looking for new worship music to check this one out. We have another EP called Testify by Joel Vaughn. I forget how I came across Joel Vaughn, but the name was familiar before I even listened to this. I can't say I'm a frequent listener of his music, but this was also really solid. This had more of a pop, electro kind of soundscape to it. Kind of had like that marshmallowy kind of vibe to some of the beats, where it's like, I guess EDM would be more the way to describe it, but it wasn't like 100% full force into the EDM. It was like just slight touches of it throughout this project. Yeah, 6 tracks long. There was nothing that I really had an issue with. I would recommend anyone listen to this. We're gonna go to the next page and go down. Next up we have This Is a Summer EP by D'Angelo. This is a new artist to me. I've never heard of him before, but I listened to this and it is like super indie pop vibes on this one. I know I've talked a lot about that genre specifically this video, but there's just been a lot of that released this week, I guess. And for a new artist to me, but also he seems like a newer artist, Doesn't seem like he has a ton of stuff out, I don't think. It was really well performed, really well written, had a great mix, like a great mix in indie, in the specific genre he's in. It really captured like that aesthetic. I'm gonna add some of these songs to a summer playlist for sure, so I would recommend this as well. A lot of these albums that I've listened to this week, I highly recommend at least taking a listen to some of the songs. Next up, we have Crucified in Christ, the deluxe edition by Jimmy Clifton. This was an album he released, I believe, last year, maybe? Yeah, last year, 2024, and it's just a deluxe version of it. I think it's just the last few songs that were new. Maybe I can't remember specifically, but it was a really, really well-written album. This is Christian folk music for those who don't know who he is. He makes music similar to Henrik, but it's completely like Christian, where he's talking about scripture and like biblical principles throughout all this, and even like sprinkling his own story into it as well. So I love his music. The only like small criticism I give is like, I think he pronounced like Christians as Christians or something like that, just because it rhymed with whatever else he was talking about. Like, it rhymed with the last bar, and to me that's kind of a reach. So that song specifically was a little, I don't know about that one, like Christians instead of Christians. That's the only thing I wasn't a huge fan of, but other than that, super solid album. I gave it a 4 out of 5, which is one of the higher rated albums this week. Next up, we have Hard to Believe by Lathan Warlick. He's an artist, I think, from Nashville. If not, he's definitely been to Nashville several times, and he's kind of in the same realm of like doing Christian music and then country music as well. I'm not super into his music, but this is an album that I listened to all the way through, or it's an EP, I would say. And it had some really good songs on here. Kinda Wanna is probably my favorite on this project, which is the last song featuring 1K Phew. It was super catchy, the beat was hard, and this was not a country song, I don't think, the Kinda Wanna song. The rest of the songs, I'm pretty sure, had more of a country vibe to it. But overall, I gave it a 3 out of 5, just because I wasn't a huge, not that I wasn't a huge fan, but nothing really stood out to me other than Kinda Wanna on this one, but nothing musically or mix-wise was bad on this one. We got Maybe It's For You by Vinnie Harris. If you don't know who Vinnie Harris is, you might know who Seven Harris is, which is his son. He's the kid with like long dreads, and he kind of sounds like Trippie Redd. This is his dad, and Seven Harris is featured on this a couple times. But again, on this one, there wasn't a ton of stuff that stood out. This was a lot of like melodic rap, if I remember correctly. It's been almost a whole week since I listened to this, because I'm making this video a week from, or I guess 6 days from when this all dropped. I mean, there's really nothing terrible about it. Like, the mix was good, the lyrics were good. It just, nothing really stood out aesthetically or sound wise to me. So I gave it a 3 out of 5, hoping that maybe at some point he'd get a higher rated album if he releases more music in the future. Next up, we have Jesus Qualifies, also known as JQ, I believe. His EP called We Got One dropped. It had features from K-Man Raps, Young Johnny D. Those have both been on the channel as well before. I wasn't, again, the biggest like fan of this, not for any particular reason other than nothing really stood out. Like, it was a lot of really well written songs. But again, on this one, I think the mix could have used a little bit, or the mix could have been a little better on some of these songs. But I gotta say, K-Man Rap's verse was disgusting. Like, he went crazy. He went in on that verse. But other than that, yeah, like, it's a solid listen. If you like Jesus Qualifies and you know his music and his vibe, definitely go check this out. It's worth listening to. Next up, we got B4MM. I don't know if that means BAM or something, if that's how you pronounce it, but it's by Main 2 Wavy. This is a new EP, and it was only 4 songs long. I gave this a 3.5 out of 5 because all of these are absolute bangers. But for such a short EP, I just feel like I can't give anything higher than like a 3.5 because I look at EPs differently than albums. I'm not necessarily looking for a consistent concept throughout it, although some projects do have somewhat of a concept. But unless it's an album, I'm not necessarily looking for that. I'm just more looking for a collection of really fire songs, which is what this is. So definitely go check that out if you get the chance. The next one that I want to talk about is one of my other favorites from this week, called Spiritual Soldier by Jet. I might even give this a 4 at the end of this video. I might go back and give it a 4. This is his second or third project. I know he did an EP earlier this year, I think, and then another album as well. This is the best project that I've heard out of those 3 that have dropped this year. Bro, I'm telling you, like, go back and listen to this. I'm not saying he's trying to be Cardi, or like even, I don't even know if he's inspired by Cardi, but it's like a mix of Cardi and Yeet. It's just super fire songs, one after the other. Almost no skips, I don't think. Maybe like one skip on this. But other than that, like, super fire production. Like it's just mosh pit music, kind of. That's how I would describe it. Fire cover art as well. I don't know if that's him or if it's just like a picture he took off the internet, but I love the cover art for this as well. I gave that a 3.5 out of 5. Next up, we have Solid Foundation by Noel Camacho, I think is how you pronounce it. He's part of he's kind of grouped in with the MTM people, although he doesn't go by MTM whatever. He's good friends, I know, with at least MTM Isaiah. So that's how I know his music. But this has 2 features, one from Shandi, which he's also worked with in the past, I believe, and then Keon Boone on another one. And if I have to be, I'm going to be completely honest with you guys, I think that this is Noel Camacho's best album so far. Like, I actually really enjoyed a lot of this album. He is also kind of like MTM Isaiah, more of the ministry rap route, which I kind of rate differently as well than a normal album, because it's not necessarily about like bars. While he might have some bars here and there throughout this, it's more about the message that he's trying to convey to the audience, which there's nothing wrong with. But there's a lot of times, kind of similar to what I was talking about with Star Ringo last week, Noel Camacho sometimes uses auto-tune, and even with the auto-tune it can sound a little out of key still. But on this one, he really found his voice, I think. And that, like, I really enjoyed some of these songs, especially songs like Thank You Abba, Yahweh We Love You. Those were some of my favorites on this one, so I gave it a 3 out of 5. Definitely recommend, like, if you've never heard of him before and you're looking for some ministry rap, definitely go check that out. We can talk about Slick Rick another day. But next one I kind of want to talk about, I don't know if he's a Christian artist, but his name is Barely Trev, and he dropped an EP this week called Oh Baby. I'm pretty sure there's a song on here featuring, maybe it's a different artist that I checked out this week. Let me just double check. I don't think it's labeled on here, but there's a JJL feature. There's a song with like a bunch of people. I think it's 1982 Calculus. But let me just check on this. I'm pretty sure JJL, though. I'm sure some of you guys probably know who JJL is. I met him briefly, I think, at Smoke Fest. He's part of Fazbreak, if I remember correctly. So that's how I got this on my Spotify release radar. And this is also, I'd say, kind of more on the singer-songwriter, but also adding in sprinkles of hip-hop and indie kind of vibes through this as well. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. Super kind of like summary songs on that one. And I guess the last one we're going to talk about is the highest Christian album that I've rated so far, I think, on Music Board, which is a revisit of New Hollywood by What Up RG. There's a couple other Christian albums I want to re-review that I think I'm going to give a 5. And I will say a lot of these albums that I give 5s to, like if you go to my music board, I think I have 7 5-rated albums, like 5 out of 5 star. I know those are all debatable, but this is my personal taste. And even I sometimes go back and forth on whether it should be at a 5, because I don't ever think something's fully a 5 or 5 out of 5 or 10 out of 10. But there's just so much crazy stuff that happened around this time around the time of this release. It was built up for so long, like the excitement. I remember personally being excited for like years. It's kind of like what Kanye West does when he drops an album. He just builds up so much excitement. And the breakout single, Praise, one of them with like every fire Christian artist out there. King's Kaleidoscope is on here, Beam, Paris Chariz. He even incorporated his wife Cassandra on this. Romar Jesse, 1K Few, 350, Paris Chariz, Holvey. Like, he just has everyone on this, and there's so many Easter eggs to Heaven on Earth, which we didn't even know existed around this time. There's just so many things. Like, it kind of broke Reach Records out of a certain box as well. Him kind of being free to express himself to the point of even like just saying damn on his song MySpace, which is my absolute favorite. He's played that song every time at Smokefest. It goes crazy. Sometimes when I look back at the first video of me at Smokefest, like my first year there, he performed this song MySpace. Sometimes I tear up, I'm not gonna lie, because it was such a crazy moment. There's just so many fire things. It's a concept album and I really love it. I have it on vinyl. And my only thing with giving, I will say this before I end the video, the reason I'm so scared to give artists a 5 out of 5 is because where can they go from there? Like, What Up RG hasn't dropped an album since this, I don't believe. And after you drop a 10 out of 10 album, how do you go from there? Like, you can't just always drop a 10 out of 10, so most likely it's not going to be as good. Hopefully it would be, but you never know. And I had to talk about that because one of the other albums I want to revisit is Eremos. I've listened to that several times recently, but I want to listen to it again just to make sure I review it correctly, or properly, I should say. That is one that I'm on the fence of whether it's a 4.5 or 5 out of 5. I had the same question, how does he go from Eremos, which I think is debatably one of the best Christian rap albums ever released, to now he's dropping a new album? And I just have to say, I've heard the album already. Grow Wings is going to be better than Eremos. It's going to be debatable, but in my opinion, it's better. I think Grow Wings is the 5 out of 5. Eremos is the 4.5 out of 5. But I'm going to let that marinate. I'm going to react to the album when it comes out. So we'll see, but that's what I had to say about New Hollywood by What Up RG. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will see you guys next Thursday. I think I'm going to try and get my video out next Thursday. Next week and the week after, I will be on vacation, so I can't guarantee that I'll have that video out. If not, I will go back and do everything that I missed while I was gone. I have pre-recorded videos for the week that I'll be on vacation, so I'm really excited for that. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Go be fruitful. Let's go.